A new and dramatic confrontation is playing out in one of the world's most sensitive waterways, and a short, raw piece of video has become the latest flashpoint. In about 50 seconds of footage posted by an Iranian diplomatic account, fast, dark-hulled attack boats race alongside a much larger foreign warship. Over loudspeakers, a voice bristles with contempt and warning, and for a moment, the calm of open water is replaced by taunting, sirens, and a very real threat of violence. An Iranian naval officer is heard directly addressing the crew of the larger vessel. An Iranian naval officer is heard directly addressing. He says in a voice lifted above the wake and the engine noise, "You are liars, old foxes. This is Iran, the land of lions and Islam. There's no place here for hyenas to show their strength. Run for your lives." The words cut through the salt air on the recording, and they are accompanied by rapid maneuvers from several smaller craft drawing close, then falling back in tight, purposeful arcs. State-linked outlets and Socia, white accounts attached to Iran's military, were quick to frame the clip as proof of one thing above all: Iran's ability and willingness to confront foreign naval forces close to its shores. The footage, they said, showed the Islamic Republic asserting control over a vital stretch of sea. The video's distributors named the larger ship and portrayed the encounter as an unmistakable message. Foreign navies operating near Iranian waters should expect to be challenged. But the video and its accompanying claims raise as many questions as they settle. The authenticity of the clip and the precise timing of the encounter it depicts have not been independently verified. Some of the audio is difficult to parse. The recording is visually ambiguous in places, and identifying marks on the larger vessel are not always clear. Military spokespeople from the United States have not, at the time of this broadcast, issued a public, detailed account contradicting or confirming the footage. What the record didn't. G does make plain is this: the environment in which naval crews now operate in this sea is charged and dangerous. For every fast approach, every shouted order, there is the possibility that a mistake, a misread signal, or an overreaction could take an isolated incident and make it an international crisis. The clip circulated alongside an official broadcast from an Iranian state outlet that posted the footage on May 7. On that broadcast, an audio transmission attributed to Iranian naval forces demanded that a named American destroyer alter course and withdraw. The voice on the recording told the ship to leave the area and threatened action if the order was not followed. At one point, the message is clear and uncompromising: stay 10 miles away from any naval vessel because I am ready to open fire on them. Shortly after that warning, another voice can be heard answering: U.S. Navy Warship 121. This is Saipan Station. You must alter course and go back to the Indian Ocean immediately. If why? Don't obey my order, you will be targeted. Out, the reply, terse and formal, asserted the American vessel's right to continue its passage. This is Coalition Warship 121. Gauge in transit passage in accordance with international law. No challenges attended to you. The exchange, clipped and punctuated by static and engine noise, reads like a classic test of wills. One side claiming oppressive control of nearby waters, the other invoking navigational rights under international law. Beyond those legal and diplomatic phrases lies the more immediate problem when vessels operate so close to each other, and when one side broadcasts a readiness to open fire, the margin for accident collapses. This confrontation comes amid a larger, more volatile sequence of events in and around a strategic choke point, the Strait of Hormuz. In recent weeks and months, there have been reports of exchanges of fire, naval skirmishes, and a series of incidents affecting commercial shipping, Iranian military. Sources have claimed increased control over vessel movement and announced new organizations and procedures meant to regulate passage through the strait. One such announcement described the creation of a Persian Gulf authority intended to reorganize transit and impose new rules on ships that navigate this narrow waterway. Iran's military statements have insisted that transit will be ensured even as they make clear new expectations for vessel behavior. Iranian officials thanked ship owners and captains who complied with what they termed Iranian regulations, and they framed their actions as protective measures taken to secure national waters. At the same time, Iranian state media and military accounts have broadcast images and recordings designed to show strength and resolve, a show of force aimed at warning off what they describe as foreign incursions. Across the horizon of this dispute are the competing narratives of other actors. Western and coalition maritime officials point to the right of free navigation, the critical importance of keeping global trade moving through a bottleneck that handles a substantial share of the world's seabird oil, and the dangers posed by mines, small boat harassment, and attacks on commercial shipping. Commercial operators and insurers are watching closely. Disruptions in this corridor ripple through energy markets and can force rerouting and added cost for shipping lines already under strain. Among the concrete claims emerging alongside the latest clip are allegations of attacks on merchant vessels. A major French shipping company reported that one of its vessels was struck while transiting the strait, with injuries and damage resulting. Reports like that underscore two realities. First, commercial crews are being put at risk. Second, each incident provides new political fodder for hardline rhetoric on all sides. At the reporting moment, U.S. Central Command has not released a full public statement detailing the exchange and the outage. That lack of immediate official comment only amplifies the uncertainty, and uncertainty in a tense maritime environment can prompt rapid escalation as nations seek to protect their forces, honor their laws, and avoid appearing weak. This clip and the claims surrounding it also come against a backdrop of larger diplomatic maneuvers. A pause in a U.S.-led operation designed to escort or protect vessels was publicly announced, with officials insisting it was temporary and framed as part of a wider effort to reduce tension. The pause was explained by its proponents as a step toward a negotiated arrangement, and according to those statements, was supported by a third-party mediator. At the same time, some officials said certain enforcement measures described by them as a blockade would remain in place in order to maintain pressure and deny a unilateral reassertion of control over the waterway. The strategic importance of the strait is hard to overstate. A very large share of the world's oil shipments pass near or through this narrow passage. The cost of disruption is immediate and measurable. Higher insurance premiums for shipping, delays that cascade through global supply chains, and the political pressure that comes with interrupted energy exports. When one side claims to be able to impose fees or conditions for safe passage, the economic and diplomatic anxieties multiply. For naval commanders at sea, the calculus is perennially operational. Keep watch, maintain safe distances, follow international protocols, and communicate clearly to avoid misinterpretation. For political leaders on shore, the calculus is strategic. Deter escalation while preserving freedom of navigation, reassure allies, and avoid being dragged into a broader conflict by an incident that could, in other circumstances, have been contained. The clip's raw, provocative content, an officer taunting small boats accelerating toward a larger ship, sirens, and the repeated blunt threats, has a psychological effect as well. It is designed not only to press a tactical advantage at sea, but to shape public perception and the narrative of control. The language deployed is meant to be heard beyond the immediate moment. It is language that signals resolve to a domestic audience as much as it warns an adversary. In this environment, accurate information becomes a scarce commodity. Videos can be edited, dates can be obscured, and footage can be repackaged to serve different political ends. That means independent verification of such clips matters. Precise timestamps, corroborating radar or satellite tracks, eyewitness testimony from neutral merchant mariners, and clear identification of vessels can all help determine what happened and when. When those elements are missing or ambiguous, the results are competing claims and a higher risk of miscalculation. So where does that leave regional actors in the international community? First, there is an urgent need for calm heads and discipline. Inner rules of engagement to prevent a single encounter from becoming something far worse. Second, there is a diplomatic task, reopening communications, seeking third-party mediation where trust is lacking, and reasserting the international norms governing freedom of navigation. Third, there is the economic imperative. Shipping lines, insurers, and global markets require predictable rules of the road in order to function. For crews at sea, this is already a human story. Sailors and merchant mariners are operating in a climate of heightened risk. For families ashore, the localized pressure, news of injured seafarers of a shipping company confirming damage to a vessel translates quickly into anxiety and calls for clarity. For policymakers, the immediate challenge is to balance deterrence and diplomacy to prevent an incident from spiraling and to keep an open channel for verification and de-escalation. As this story continues to unfold, one thing is clear: the waters that connect global markets are also the front line of statecraft. A brief video clip can serve as both a record and a provocation. It can be a warning and a boast. Countries will use epochs of tension to test limits, and each test carries the risk that a single misinterpreted maneuver becomes the spark that lights a much larger blaze. The short audio and the shorter video at the center of this confrontation are, in a very real sense, a measure of where the region stands within striking distance of each other, with legal claims and military postures that overlap uncomfortably, and with both the tools and the motives that can convert maritime posturing into conflict. For now, the message from the recording hangs in the air as plainly as it did over the waves: a belligerent voice telling another ship to leave, repeated public warning demanding distance, and the blunt admission, "I'm ready to open fire on them," that makes clear the stakes. That declaration, however rhetorically motivated, is the kind of language that elevates every subsequent decision. What comes next depends on choices made ashore and at sea. Whether commanders will prioritize restraint, whether diplomats can rebuild channels of communication, and whether neutral third parties can help verify incidents and reduce ambiguity. It will also depend on whether commercial operators and flag states can cooperate to keep civilians safe and commerce flowing. In the end, the clip is a warning in itself, a reminder that in this corner of the world, even brief encounters are never merely tactical. They are political, economic, and human. They can reshape markets, alter alliances, and change lives. The world will be watching to see whether cooler heads prevail, whether independent verification clarifies the moment captured on video, and whether the narrow blue corridors that carry so much of the world's trade will remain open and safe. For now, the sea keeps the full story. The sirens fade in the recording, the echo of threats lingers, and the larger question remains: will this be a single, contained episode, or will it mark the next chapter in a dangerous escalation? The answer will be written not just by the governments that speak publicly, but by the actions of ships and crews that must navigate these waters with care.